Hi, Dr. LaFrance here again for my third video. I'm surprised that people are still watching, but that's how it is. Today, I will, of course, talk about COVID-19, but I will start to stretch to other things like the economy, etc. Because the news are going to change, okay? It's going to change. At the moment, it's all about numbers. But the numbers and the reality are not exactly concordant. Uh, for example, I think we're around 1,000 deaths in Canada. Well, to put that in perspective and to reality, there is many thousands of deaths with influenza every year. So I'm not trying to minimize it. Again, I will say this virus is serious, it's very harmful, and we have to deal with it with everything we can, but sensibly. So, also the new and the old. Again, this is new, 1,000 deaths from COVID. I mean, we have many more deaths from around the world from measles and stuff like that, and influenza, but we're used to it, so it becomes we become blasé about it, and we just take it for granted. And this new, oh my God, we got to change the world for it. Well, the world's not going to change because of it. It's going to change very little, unless we make it change for the worse. So basically, that's about it as far as perspective. Now, what's going to be in the news a lot in the near future is going to be long-term care homes. And then after that, we're going to start talking a lot about the economy. So for long-term home, maybe a little bit about me. I've been an anesthesiologist, intensivist for a long while. Well, I've been in practice for a long time. I was 76. I started in 1970. For the first 10 years of my life, I was a general practitioner to start with. I wasn't a very good general practitioner because I was too much of a scientist. To be a general practitioner, you need about three, four things, mingle them all together. You have to be a certain type of businessman. You have to be a scientist and know your medicine up to a point. You have to be an artist. If you're not a good artist, you don't succeed. I will tell you an example. When I started, it was very scientific. I know what a virus is. I know what the bacteria is. Patients were coming in with an obvious virus. They wanted an antibiotics. You all know now that antibiotics don't work against viruses. I knew that. The much older doctor beside me, who also knew that probably, but he was a little more artistic than me, he would give them what was popular at the time as a shot in the butt of penicillin. So the patients would look at me and say, well, Dr. X gives me a shot in the butt. Why don't you? I tried to explain what a virus and a bacteria was. They looked at me kind of dazed, got in the office and got a shot in the butt from the other doctor. So I didn't gain much of a big practice because I wasn't artistic enough. So anyway, long-term thing, I gravitated towards anesthesia, but anesthesia wasn't paying the bills. I had a lot of kids at home, like 5 of them at that time. So anesthesia would keep me busy from 8 till 1 in the afternoon. Not enough, like later on in my life, all day plus calls and everything. So I started to do nursing homes because no other doctors wanted to do that. And it wasn't paying that much, but I needed the money. So I got into what is called now gerontology. There was no such name then, but we're looking basically after a nursing home with 200 patients, all by myself, in the afternoons. And then I did that for 20 years. And then eventually I made enough money with anesthesia. And I got in conflicts with my other doctor friends again, who were giving antibiotics for virus. I've been proven right with time because we all know now that the big problems with overuse of antibiotics is we have resistance to a lot of things, and it's becoming very annoying. So anyway, I got into gerontology, so I got a fair bit of experience with nursing home. I won't talk too long about that, but again, I don't envy the authorities that have to look at that problem, and it's in the news now, obviously, because more than 50% of deaths are in long-term care homes. It's not going to be an easy problem to tackle. You're dealing with a very vulnerable population that is close to death to start with, and the public is really seeing the news, do something. Doug Ford in Ontario wants a wall of steel around it. We'll test everybody. We'll kick the crap out of that virus. It won't be that easy, I can tell you. Ideally, the thing you could do, but it's almost impractical, is build whole new facilities within 10 days like they did in China. If there is 200 residents, have 200 private rooms, have a lot of PPEs to protect the staff, and just keep everybody isolated like we do with the few isolation cases we have at the hospital now. Do that. It's going to be a monumental job, I can tell you. So I'm not going to talk much about that, but don't expect miracles. I mean, laws of nature are still going to happen no matter what Doug Ford wants to do. Now, other things that are in the news today, snitches, people becoming police and watching and, oh, my neighbor does this. And I could tell you a lot of histories. I read some of them are pretty ridiculous, but what can you do? But basically, there's a good article today saying that the main people, number of people that are snitching is because of their own fear. They fear, so they extrapolate. If I go and I watch, oh, this guy is 4 feet away from this guy. If I call the police, I'm doing good. And of course, police do what the population wants. So they've established snitch line that you call and do that. It's not gonna. We don't want to go. We are actually creating 1984, the novel by George Orwell at the moment with this, and not only with the snitches, but the economy. The government's going to get powers. They use always these hard times to grab power that they don't relinquish later on, and that's going to be very important. Snitches, long-term care. Now, the big thing that's going to come after long-term care in a couple of weeks, and it's starting, is when and how do we restart the economy? When and more the banks of Canada and the IMF, etc., are going to start giving perspective on what is really happening to the economy. It will be bloody scary, I'm going to tell you. They're already saying it's worse than the Great, not recession. That's what they were saying 2 weeks ago. Now the Great Recession of 2008. Now they're talking about worse than the Great Depression of 1933. In my first video, I talk about the trade-offs and how and what and if. Well, at some time we will have to address whether the cure was worse than the disease. But we'll leave that for now. One little thing I want to talk about here. In Quebec, in the last few days, they're trying to shame the doctors into going and doing menial jobs in the nursing homes. Because obviously they can't pay the doctors while they do nothing. So they want them to go in nursing homes now. Not completely against the idea, but two things to keep in mind. Those doctors are going to be doing a lot of work, dangerous work that they're not used to, and it's way below what they do. Okay, below, sorry. Now, I'll make a parallel. There's 30,000 people needed in Quebec to go and pick up the food that we will all need to survive in the next few months. There's all kinds of rules, stupid rules with them trying to keep them in a cabin for 14 days when they come in, rather than in the field separated. No, where's the common sense into that? But we're not pushing any of our people that are not working to go and pick up in the fields. Doctors are no better, no worse than them. But why pick on doctors to go and do that when we don't force people to go and pick up those vegetables in the field? Just saying, not because I'm a doctor, just mentioning that. Now, future problems with economy. The seeds are there now. Now I have a big secret to tell you. These videos are only a loss leader, like in the grocery store. I'm really tricking you. Although medicine is my living, my passion have always been economy, sociology, politics, and interaction. So if you look at the title of my video, The Trilogy of Life: Science, Economy, Politics. I'm hoping that I will not lose you somewhere along the way, because I will get much more technical. I will try to keep it like Macroeconomics for Dummies or Macroeconomics 101. I always like those books because it synthesizes things a little fast. If you get into economics too in the details, it's boring. But if we want to talk about the macroeconomics, life, that is life. It's so important. People don't realize it, but the money in or out of their pocket has a lot to do with basic sense, common sense. I come from the country. I was an orphan from a young age, made my way through it. There was no student loan. We made our way, we worked, we did it. So people have to understand at some time that when society started, we were talking about two fishermen standing with fishes, and the fish would feed their family. Then they started to trade the fish. Then they started to trade the fish for a line, a net. Then they tried a net for a bow and arrow to kill a. So eventually, Money was only a way to trade what your work brought you. So money should equal work. Now, if you start with that basis and you expand, you go through the times and we were bartering grain and then ox hides and then metals and then coins and finally money. And money was worth a unit of work. And it was like that until 1971 when a guy called Richard Nixon decided that he was going to abandon the gold standard. So money anymore did not represent a commodity, did not represent a unit of work. It represented what we believe it was worth. It works for a while, and it has been working, but it's called fiat money because we have to believe in it. Well, if you still believe in money after what's going to happen in the next 3 months, I have a bridge to sell you because everything they're doing now is ridiculous. They're printing money by the bucket, money that has no basis with work. I don't necessarily blame them. I think at the moment you got to do what you have to do. But if you really want to see what could happen, just look at what happened to Germany from 1931 to 1933. Just go and on Wikipedia, for example, and find out. You're gonna see what happened. Like it starts with a one in a corner. After 3 years, there's about 17 zeros after it, and the money was being burnt for eating instead of eating your house instead of buying stuff because it was worthless because they lost faith into money what it was worth. Anybody that will keep faith in money after what happens is crazy. Just a little start again. I'm digressing, but I don't know where to start. It's so complex. But anyway, I will try eventually to explain you what zero interest means and what it implies. I will try to explain you what quantitative easing is, which is printing money. I will try to explain you what helicopter money is, which is printing and throwing money out of the door again. I will try to explain how this is going to eventually be our demise of the Western world. And for the ones who stick with me, it might be a very interesting ride, or I might lose you on the first little flight. So I don't know. Also, you will see that as I move from plain COVID-19 to those economy, you will see my passion come out because this is what I really believe in. So for now, we will leave it at that. And I'll work on more on the long-term care and see what I can bring you tomorrow or the day after. But don't expect miracle. I think it is going to be very hard to try to reverse that trend because those people have got a foot in the grave. And you can do what you want, and we might even do great and then forget about it. But in 3 months, nobody will think about that because that's life. I've been in nursing home for a long time. Death is all around us when we're in nursing home. I don't deny that it's happening a lot faster now. This virus is, again, I repeat, a deadly enemy. But it does not have to change and destroy our lives if we use our head. Bye for now.